Hello, RubySteps.
Hi there. This is Pat.
I'm Pat.
Jen.
I'm Alistair.
That's Alistair.
And
Who's
there
that?
is-
I see somebody right there. No, look. Who's that?
Looks like Amitai.
Oh, that's me. I thought it was somebody over there. Hi, I'm Amitai.
Nice.
Who is it?
Who dat? So, what are we doing, Alistair?
We're continuing on the small hexagonal architecture illustration, and I suggested to Amitai he might like to go to github/mock/small web hexagon so that he can browse the code separately. Now, can you do me a favor and put so I can see Amitai like over on the
Wow,
side
that's
there?
great to do.
I'm a big like organizing in this kind of guy. So he's scanning the code and he goes, well, it says it's hexagon, so I guess it's an implementation of the hexagonal architecture, which is true. And it says in the README that it's a small CMS. I guess it's a CMS. So I was like tipping him off. So the only thing this thing does, an HTTP request comes over. It just sticks it. If it's a read, it handles it and throws it away and ignores it. And if it's a post, in the end, it'll keep all the posts and all the reads, and that will be the database. The moral, the theme of the website is lose no information. So whatever comes in the request is whatever information you have, do that. For the moment, to keep things simple, we just suck out the contents, which would just be the text part of the request. And I have coined the term muffin to be a piece of content or a resource of any variety, whether it's binary or text or anything, so I don't have to say what kind it is. And so that gives us a metaphor for the entire system, which is a bakery. So it's called Muffinland. And we've got these personages that play along in there. Now we have a baker, we have muffins, we have a muffin tin. We have a historian, but this morning the historian was going to keep track of anything you wanted from the past. You would talk to the historian about. In this morning's session, the historian kind of vanished, like he evaporated away, wasn't needed. So we'll see if the historian ever comes back on. So if you look at the code, you'll always see that a request comes in. We're only doing an add. It's the only thing of any importance. So there's a post, which is an add. There's a get. That's all we need. The left side of the hexagon, the visitor port, has been working for a while now, and what we're doing is now adding the persistence port. So what would it mean to add the persistence port? Well, we wrote one test this morning, and after some amount of iterations around it, ended up with, and he'll get the window up here in a minute, it's just a bulk load. So basically, this thing exists on Heroku. When they swap out the process, all the in-memory memory goes away, and there's no persistence of any kind. And the question was, when you spin up, the process again, and it goes out the database, what's it going to do? And we decided that it would do a bulk load, just a bulk load of the muffins. So we write a test, and to follow the hexagonal architecture pattern. The first test is that the database is just in-memory. It's just an array. It's just an array of requests. So we cleaned up the code so that we could create requests. And can you show the test case? Test 03, that's the one right there. So if you're looking at Amitai at test 03, Baker bulk loads, we added we refactored and added a function called construct a request, which does all the Ruby rack environment magic, and it produces you this request object. So that we can create our content, so nothing more than, our database is nothing more than an array with one item in it, which is a request. And now we've got a thing called bulk load. And so Muffinland will just ask the baker to please put all of those things into the muffin tin. Please stay with the metaphor. Can you show the baker code right over on the right-hand side? At the very end. Bulk load, it takes each request. It says add muffin from text, and so that's the code, which is request.incoming content, so it sucks the little piece of text out of the incoming request, and that would be the muffin. We'll call it a raw muffin. The raw muffin is the binary. So whether it's a PDF or an image, a ping, right, a YouTube, or whatever, that's the raw muffin right there. And so when you ask a muffin to present itself, you can ask for the raw muffin, or you can ask for it for viewing, baked with sprinkles, or whatever, however you like your muffins.
You know what I haven't seen in all this, Alistair?
What?
The Muffin Man. Have you seen the Muffin Man?
No, I don't know the Muffin Man.
He lives on
Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man.
The Muffin Man will have
The
to make an
Muffin Man.
appearance.
He lives on Drury Lane.
He doesn't.
The Muffin Man will definitely make an appearance. So, Amitai, that's what we got this morning, and a little bit the question. So, are you familiar with the hexagonal architecture, Amitai?
Only reading about it and the idea that it's enough abstractions that you can do something simple at the beginning and add features later.
Yeah.
There's ports and adapters, and I don't know which is which, but I have the idea that it's
So
concentric abstractions.
the essence of the idea is that your system should never know about the outside world. So at any moment it needs to know about the outside world, you put a little separator in there, and so a port means a kind of a conversation. So the kind of a conversation you have with a visitor to a website is fundamentally different than the kind of a conversation you have to the persistence device. So that's a port. And the test stuff doesn't need an adapter. The test goes straight in to the visitor port, and you make the test. The interface is an adapter that allows a person to come in, and it converts it to calls to the API. That's on the left side of the hexagon. We're on the right side of the hexagon. And so a database is an external thing in the world with molecules, right, with atoms and magnets and stuff. And so we want to be able to swap out and have just literally an array in memory. If I'm writing something for myself, whether it's a text or I'm just evolving a piece of code, I don't want to have a hookup to the database. I'm going to have the system just come and look at our array. The database will be just our array. So inside of the system, it can't know anything about the nature, the physical nature of it. So that's on the persistence port. So the last branch was called persistence port.
Okay,
So what we got so far is a fake database. It's nothing but an array with one item in it called request.
And that doesn't persist yet. We might be interested in doing that now.
Well, it does persist. It is persistent. It's persistent as long as the test is running.
I see. Okay. Yep.
Now the next stage would be, so my question, is that enough to feel us, make us believe that it actually requests? So what I would do is load 3 things and read the second one. But we don't have a rotation up yet. And I'm wondering, Amitai, would you like to be a navigator, and we can be coaching you so you can get in the style of writing the tests and just add, inside of test 3, I would even do like add 3 requests and check that the second one is a particular one, but have Amitai, do you want to try to speak at Amitai? And that way you'll learn it faster than if you just listen.
That sounds great.
So we're still in test 03.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea where to go with this now? When you look at test 03, Amitai, can you read anything there?
So first of all, the name of the test talks about the baker. Is that the person that posted the item, or?
Okay. Test 2 and test 3.
Same thing, different design.
Let's stay with test 2's design because test 3 may actually go away because we may refactor that out. So test 2 sells Newfoundland bulk close. Now, stylistically, I would have the app equals Newfoundland new at the top.
Oh.
And what we're doing is we're letting him type because he knows his keyboard. So we'll all just take turns still telling him what to type. There you go. Okay, so Amitai, can you read test 02? Does it make any sense to you? Do you have any questions?
Let's take a look. So I have an app, which is this Muffin Land, and I'm going to make a request where I post some very limited contents as an addition.
Post is a post, the path is ignored, and then the instruction, the command is an add, and the contents are the letter A.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to pass that request through a bulk load mechanism, which presumably for one load that's just as good. We're going to get a response back, and we are expecting in that response that an ID was assigned to the muffin that we put, and that its contents are the contents we put there.
And so when you read that, that's the left side of the hexagonal architecture. So it doesn't emit HTML, it emits a structure.
Mm-hmm.
So the UI adapter will take that information in that structure and populate an HTML page and go. But for our tests, we don't care about that. All we care about is that stuff came out, right?
Right. We want to make sure that what we put is really in there.
Right, and then the should is a slice. We take all of the stuff that came out and only care about those 3 elements inside of the stuff that came out.
What's that? Slice of what?
Slice per. So the ML response is what came out, what was returned by the system. The expected says I only care about these 3 things. And slice per says whatever came out, ignore everything, but only pick out those 2 bits. What does the action say? Muffin ID say and body say.
Oh, okay.
And only compare those items against expected.
Oh, okay.
So you're
So
go ahead.
there may be other stuff in the response, but we don't care about that.
Correct. So you're where we are now for you, Amitai, is to extend test 2 by sending in 3 requests with different content and pulling out the second one and making sure it's the right one.
Okay. Am I keyboard man or am I thinking man?
I'll keyboard man.
Why don't you dictate? He'll move his fast fingers and.
Sounds great. I'm a VI guy. Okay, so the simplest thing we could do is to add construct a second request like this one, and change a couple things about it. We got to keep post because that's the mechanism that works. Ignored could be the same because it's ignored. Is that right?
You can change it if you want. We won't test it. So if that's been tested in a different place.
Banana muffin.
And what's the significance of the add parameter?
That's the instruction to muffin land. It's going to be.
Okay, so we want to keep that too. And then the contents should be unique because we might need to disambiguate based on that in the test.
Request from Jen that it's a banana muffin.
I'm happy to have it be a banana muffin.
Okay. And so
I'm not going to eat it, so it might as well be in the test.
next, keep going.
Okay, and we wanted to have a third one, or is this a good start?
I'm a vote for 3, and then check 1 works kind of a guy.
Sure, and the third one we can make oatmeal raisin.
We have a vote.
Oh, okay, that's delicious. No, that's a good choice.
Order votes blueberry.
Maybe the top should be apple.
Vote with
Apple
the
for
belly.
the. Yeah, we were the person to pick. Apple is the first one. No chicken muffins.
No.
All right, what's next?
Have we seen the test fail that we already have here? Because this would be a good chance to see that it should.
I would have done, by the way, different style than you. I would have left the first test intact and appended the second test below it.
A new test.
I wouldn't call it a new test, but a new pilot stuff with a new should.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
If you look at what I've done above, that's my style. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's the one I do. So
Actually, I'm going to call you out on something right now.
do that.
So I feel it's very important not to use good or bad when talking about stuff like this.
Good. What did I say, good or bad?
I don't know. You said I don't know if it's good or bad.
Oh,
And so here's the reason. There's a lot of times people go, I want to know the right way or what's a good way.
Right.
So I think in terms of helpful or unhelpful.
All right.
What are my goals? Is this helpful or unhelpful? So, is this helpful?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know the style of this stuff. I do that. I got a test working, and I'm gonna add to it. So I just append the second thing.
I can be down with that.
Just run this because it's going to fail. I want to watch it fail.
It's going to pass because we haven't
It's going
changed
to
anything.
fail.
It's going
It's
to
gonna
Run it.
fail.
It should fail because we
Run it.
changed
Run
the
it.
expected
Run
value.
it. I argue. Run
Run
it.
it.
Run it.
I have no idea what I expect. I don't know why I'm saying anything.
I know.
I'll get there.
Don't let him think. Just watch him have it fail.
It better fail. If it doesn't fail, there's a problem.
So it fails.
Where did it fail at?
Who knows?
It's
Line 103. I know why it fails.
That's why I wanted to run it because that's how we had changed the test.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Do you guys know the Saturday Night Live sketch with Christopher Walken where he's the trivial psychic and he can see very small things in the near future that nobody wants to hear?
Well, I saw that I was going to catch him out, and I could not let Jim give him a chance to see. I was shouting in his ears so he couldn't possibly think for a look. Run it! No, just run it! No, don't think! Shut up, everybody! I'm about to catch him up!
Alright, so now we want a banana.
I got my joy for the afternoons. All right, do we
So
have
good.
three?
This test can fail when it should. And that's,
Amitai, what's next?
so explain a little more about your stylistic point where we moved the request down.
No, we already one should, right? We already did the should. We added item 0. It's Apple.
Oh, I see. So test one at a time in sequence. In the same way.
Okay, we're going to check that one of those two is also in there.
Okay. The name of the test is called bulk loads. Do we want to test that we can send several requests to bulk load or not yet?
Yeah, it's an array with multiple entries, with multiple elements.
So this is kind of interesting. How do we? Well, I don't know. Go ahead. So I'm saying we bulk load here, so we could bulk load
Again. That's what I would. Amitai, is that what you're seeing?
So the simplest thing we could do is repeat the pattern 2 more times, and I'm wondering if, because there's a bulk load mechanism, we could pass in 3 requests at the same time if we wanted to. I'm wondering if we should want to.
That's what I think the intention is. So,
Okay.
So that array you see with the word request is in fact the database.
Say that again?
You can instruct them.
Would be useful.
Really?
You never heard of promises?
Aha.
So what I was saying is that array that only had the word request, it's confusing to the casual observer. One of the reasons to do this. That is our database.
Do you
Our
need it
database is an
up
array of
there
requests.
and down
And in
there?
fact, in real life, that's what the database will be. It'll just be stored in a file system or database or something. Right? Or persistent.
So this is interesting because originally how we did it was when we bulk load from the database, it overwrote whatever, it just blew away whatever was there. But I don't think that's the case now.
Yes, it will. Try it. Ooh, try it. I assert freely that it overwrites it, and I have a hypothesis that it depends. So let's test it.
Yes, my hypothesis is it
And I'm
depends.
curious, do you need it at the top as well? Do you need to get up there?
Well, no, because at this
It's actually a
point,
separate test under the same test title.
yeah, at this point we're on. See, this is why I would separate it out probably. But this is gonna be something interesting. So we want to get.
But Amitai, what we need an expected test, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we've now done the bulk load of the new database. So what do you think we need to do next, Amitai?
So after our bulk load at the end of this test method, we need to, copy this little pattern and do it slightly differently. Mm-hmm. And now the question is, what do we think we expect?
Let's look for number 1, not number 0.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a number 1.
That was my first question. Is this an auto-incrementing integer?
The question is, what is item 1, right? So I claim we request 2 if it is overwriting it, but it would be request if it's appending it.
It's gonna fail with muffin ID 0 muffin body apple. That's what it's gonna get.
Do we have enough code that we can run it?
Yes. You think it's gonna pass? You think this test passes?
Yeah, I think this test passes.
I think this test fails.
This is really cool.
Can we bet on it? Because you want $2.
No, I'm not bet for money. What is expected? Did it pass? Did it fail?
It failed. Whoa! Did it fail with apple and 0, just like Pat said?
Yeah. Right. Did it append?
It did.
Show me the code where it appends. I want to see that.
So it appends
I
because it
understand.
iterates over each.
Yeah, but
And
it
just
didn't
add.
erase it. Because it used to do an assignment and now it does
Right.
now it doesn't add.
Right.
Ooh, we changed the code and it changed the behavior from what I expected. Score! Nice.
So I mean, I kind of think
This
it's
is why
interesting.
we did this though, because that I would have screwed me up in the future.
Yeah,
Right?
I kind of like this that it would be append only, unless we.
No. No, that's not the point. If I wanted to say append, that's it. Append. If it's a bulk load, it's boom. That's it.
So
We
we
could
need.
call it
So this is good.
replace.
So we need it to fail.
So I'm glad we did this because what I just learned was by doing my. So on the time I was apologizing for my style of working because I haven't written live code since 1995, 15 years. And these guys watch me and I type with 2 fingers, and I'm way out of the style of everything, right? So I'm like 20 years, whatever. And so my style is to do exactly what we just did, is inside muffinland bulk loads, the test defined as muffinland bulk loads, I've got no problem in running multiple little experiments and expectations to test the concept of the bulk load, as opposed to having separate function name for each individual should statement. And it turned out to be good because I would not have thought of this implication that you spotted.
Right.
You're right. Yeah.
Just to make sure I understand what happened here, if we were to instead, in the second group here, get /2 and look for muffin ID 2, that would be banana, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And we can test it.
Because we have apple twice, a 0 and 1.
Yep.
Right, which from my perspective is faulty behavior inside the system.
Yes, it is.
Not
Right.
faulty.
I just want to make sure I understand it, yeah.
So let's get it back to what at least Alistair thinks the system should do.
Well, since there's just saying, why did this one fail? Still getting 0. Can I not save it?
Yes,
Or which one does it fail?
Wait, what is it? Which is what? Expectations? It expected
It's
apple?
expected.
You still said it's expected apple.
Oh, because I'm a dork. All right, so let's go back. Maybe
Where? What?
I did slice per exp2 should equal exp. I didn't fix that.
Okay. Okay, good.
So
So we actually don't know what the
we don't know what
first-
it is yet.
what anything is yet.
Right. But it should be this.
But it should
banana.
still be an append, though, because right.
I think so. But yeah, so let's test Amity's theory. I think it is now 2 to the appends. Is the undesirable behavior, but it works.
Okay, so we know what it does and we don't like it.
Right. So that was a
That's
wonderful
very good.
piece of serendipity.
Yeah.
All right, so now what we've got then is what happened on the time when we first implemented. Can you go over here and scroll up to the muffin tin? So above the baker, we've got almost like an internal class called muffin tin.
Oops.
And muffin tin's purpose in life is actually to isolate all the stuff about IDs that was getting scattered around the baker. And I said bakers should not know about muffin IDs. It's like not a baker's job to know the ID algorithm. So I created a thing called a muffin tin, which is the actual storage of the muffins, and oh, by the way, which is kind of irrelevant. That could have been in the baker or the baker or something. But it knows all the ID stuff, which at the moment are just integers indexed in the array, and sometime in the future may become something, sophisticated. When we first started the bulk load, we had the bulk load right in muffin tin, and it just did a at muffins equals the new array. Bang! It was just a straight replacement. Turned out it failed because the muffin tin contains muffins, which are the content inside the request, and we were passing an array of requests. When we clean that up, go down to the bottom of the baker now. We changed bulk load to one at a time, pull the contents out of each request, and ask the muffin tin to add the muffin now with this new raw contents. And that's what caused the append to happen. So now the design question on deck is how do we fix that? So you're still navigator. Okay.
So the desirable behavior you're saying is that each time we call bulk load on a request, that should be as though it's happening from scratch.
Yes, sir.
Why is that what we want?
The idea here is Heroku, right now, if you use this on Heroku, it's all in memory. There's no persistence at all. And when the process gets killed and restarts, there's no database. So I would like to be able to, when the next person comes, find what was there before. So we go out to the persistence mechanism, do a bulk load, and see where it was the last time it ran.
Gotcha, okay. Mm-hmm.
So wake up and remember where it was thing. And that wouldn't work properly as an append semantics.
Do we have a need for this kind of append, or do we want to just fix the behavior?
No, and if I were going to do it, I would call it append. I wouldn't call it bulk load.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, but we don't have a need for the append behavior for anything.
Call it bulk append or something, but this is a load. So the bulk load, which says def bulk load request, that is correct.
Okay, and the semantics of it are not correct yet.
The only thing that's wrong is it doesn't empty the muffin tin before it loads up the new stuff.
So do we have a more concise test of bulk load itself somewhere, or can we make one now?
What do you mean by concise test?
Maybe something that that looks at the state before and after and sees whether requests, I guess just specifically the current semantics to make sure that we have it straight in the size test, and then to change what the tests are expecting.
You could do a size and see that the size is the size of the thing that you bulk loaded, so it wasn't.
So maybe to frame it in terms that I understand more, are you suggesting that we have this acceptance test over here currently, and in order to test the behavior of Baker bulk load, we could write a more focused unit test?
That's what I would be thinking. Do we have a place to put that, or is it easier to just test it where we are?
Do that, and probably in the sense that we don't have unit test as a concept in here.
Right.
We could probably do it just fine inside of muffin land bulk loads by making sure that there's nothing at 0, then you add something, then there is something at 0, and there's nothing at 1.
I have a feeling that we can make this test pass with 1 line of code.
I tend to agree with you. So what I think the test should say, if I was reading through Muffinland bulk loads in sort of mental order, the first thing is the thing that it does. It makes 1 request and bulk loads 1 request, and we check the 1 response to it. The second thing we might do is, I guess basically what we have now, and then check the size, like Alistair said, of the request as an array. You said. Check the size of that after that and see whether it's 2 or whether it's more than 2.
Not quite.
Okay, so Pat, I understand what you're saying, so I'll try it my way. He's saying test. You're only objecting to the test. The test doesn't test what we think we want it to test. So we saw that we got a 0, but we didn't do what is really a bulk load, right? There should be, in the first one, there should be nothing in it before. There should be exactly that at 0, and there should be nothing after it. And the size of, and then the second one, the size, what you're testing in the bulk load is there is nothing but what we loaded in, right? It's got nothing to do with the implementation, but the test doesn't express what we want to say about bulk loads.
Okay, so in that case, could we take the first request out of this so that we know that get 0 is now going to be banana, get 1 is
No, he wants to check the size. Or something.
Well, so I'm suggesting that this does demonstrate what you're saying. So just a possible idea. So instead of checking the size, we bulk load without requests in there. So now there's no apple. There's no apple muffin anywhere.
Oh, so you can bulk load an empty array.
Could bulk load an empty.
Oh,
so
bulk loading empty stuff is a null thing. Is always a good thing to do.
That would be a good check. But so Pat, I think you're suggesting that in this case we could check that there isn't anything called apple if we leave request out.
I'm suggesting now, so right now we know that this would, with this approach it would fail because of the append. But if we now don't put the apple in there, then when we get 0, we should get banana back. The apple has gone away.
Well, although Amitai, it's not like speaking to you expressively about the semantics or the behaviors of bulk load. It in fact is testing the very thing that we're arguing about. So if we add another test, we won't actually add more information in terms of testing the behavior.
Right, I see what you mean.
We said we expected exactly banana to be at 1, and it wasn't at 1, so something is wrong, and that's in fact all you need. So what you're asking for, which is to clean up and reshift and add more tests inside bulk load, is a cosmetic.
So you're saying I think we have a test for the behavior. We just discovered the misbehavior, so that can be the test.
Yeah. So if you even undo what you just did and leave it the way it was, it actually tests everything there was to be tested, except that there's nothing at the next location. So,
why don't we just change the append part to like?
We are going to change the append to replace. So Amitai, to go back on you, it doesn't look like the test needs adjustment.
I agree with you. I see what you're saying. So we're saying right now that this fails because of the append behavior. Therefore, it is a test for the non-append behavior.
Right. Good. So can you go over to Baker, then Amitai, and look at that and see what you think it would take? I mean, Pat already knows what he's going to type, but that's all right.
So we're passing in requests.
You're like a shark, swimming around.
Sorry.
Am I supposed to type?
No, I'm still typing, but you tell me.
You're still there. You're the dictator.
So let's see.
I humbly pledge my undying allegiance to you, El Dictatoro.
So in bulk load, for everything that's in request, which we passed in, we're calling @muffin from text on each element. If requests already contain some stuff, oh, it's the muffin tin.
Muffin tin is empty.
It's the muffin tin.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We can do that.
Is there another one?
My inclination is just to get a new muffin tin.
And just put that at the beginning of bulk load, right before request at each.
Did you hear his type? Just to check, don't type that in. Just
I won't.
to check your aesthetics. We have 2 designs on the table. Can you just scroll up to and see the top of the muffin tin when you just don't have to look at it. The muffin tin starts off with an array new, and then you can go add empty, and the only one that matters is add raw. Right? The 2 designs on the table on the time. One is to add a new function to muffin tin called clear, empty, something like that. I would do empty exclamation
I say
mark.
clear because it I don't know, maybe I'm just adopting an interface that's already there. We want something more expressive, but
So we're choosing between mutate the muffin tin that we have or replace it with a fresh one.
Basically, yeah.
I'd take a fresh one.
In my style, staying in the metaphor would be empty exclamation mark. That's design 1, is to create a new interface, a new command to muffin tin to empty it. The other one that he proposed is simply to have the baker just get a new muffin tin. Just say, muffin tin new.
These muffins are spoiled.
Yep, just throw the whole muffin tin out and get a new muffin tin. I like that one, frankly. From the semantics to the behavior of a baker.
Yep. And then the cleaning of the old muffin tins can happen asynchronously where we're not concerned with it.
Oh, okay. Yep. How you doing there? You're smiling there, but you like the little metaphor going here?
I do. It's half the challenge is keeping track of what does the baker mean and what does the muffin mean and what does the muffin tin mean.
Yeah, it's like new, yeah.
But it's also fun, so that takes away some challenge.
Fun. No, I like that one. Okay, now it passes. So we've got the meaning of this thing working properly.
So the one thing that I would probably change now is that we have 2 lines duplicated for a dependency that's important. So I would like to extract this out to initialize muffin tin, so that we call initialize muffin tin down in bulk load.
I'm neutral on that one. I don't have.
It's not super important.
Well, so what happened was you added 3 lines of code to turn 2 lines of code into 5 lines of code. So it didn't seem to me that came out a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Pat, what are you worried about? Is somebody going to type that wrong and not realize they did?
I don't know. I guess I'm thinking, what's the likelihood that you change the type of muffin tin at some point here? So we've got super duper muffin tin is our first initialized one, and then we forget to change it here.
So just
not a big deal.
I'm just going to replay. I can do a little time warp. It's now 1996. It's Detroit. We're in the Chrysler building in the basement. And what happens at this point after he says that, Ron Jeffrey and some other people lead a small procession, and they have this little beanie with a propeller on the top. And they put this on top of his head and say, "What a lovely design! Pew, pew, pew. Tell us about that again!" Pew, pew. And then this man will never suggest a complicated design ever again in his life. He may never suggest another design again ever in his life.
That was going to be my question, yeah.
But that's what they did. It's called ritual embarrassment, and that's how in the late 90s, when overcomplicated designs were the norm.
So you learn not to argue.
That's how they normed. That's how you normed simple design.
Yeah.
Because Kent and I were both trying to teach simple design in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
He had more impact than I did because he used
humiliation.
It's called the anthropologists call this ritual humiliation, and it works like a charm. And they did this in the C3 project.
Calling me ritualistically humiliated.
I didn't see the visual, but the sound effect sounded like an architecture astronaut falling to Earth.
But anyway, so my view is just that was adding 3 lines of code for a speculative future thing, that this thing isn't complicated enough and we'll get a different failure before the time comes, etc. Blah.
I have some salt downstairs. If you want to rub it into the wound.
No, first.
Even more.
I want to get the tattoo first. Then I'll rub it into the tattoo.
So I'm inclined. I know I commit a lot. I'm inclined to commit.
Yeah,
because
go.
we fix the thing.
No, we got a thing going. Let's go. We have a new test. And it's
Wait, have we seen the test pass?
Yes.
Okay, I missed that.
He did it. He did it when you blinked.
Okay.
I did it before we ran the test. We saw it pass, and then I gave my
Run it
overcomplicated
again once,
design
just
idea.
for-
So what did you do? I was in the-
All we did was give it a brand new muffin tin. I just said, just give a new muffin tin, and then we'll add stuff to the muffin tin.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that easy?
Yeah.
Muffin tin is
Muffin
freely
tin's not-
available.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not such a bad abstraction, muffin tin. It's holding up okay.
I like it.
All right.
The muffins never go on a shelf.
Bulk load
Just say the thing.
resets the database. Sets the muffin tin.
Yeah, thank you. I'm one of those people, like, stay in the main language whenever possible.
So do these muffins ever go on a shelf? Is that like, or do they just stay in the tin?
Well, you know, if you go home at night, they all get put on a shelf somewhere the next day.
Yeah,
You pull
right.
them
Because you
back out
have
again.
to like
What do
put
you
the
like?
raw shit into like a
Then we
new.
add a caching layer, and it's all think your muffins are stale.
Oh my god.
I love it when metaphors work. Okay. All right. So where we are now in the tide, we've got I would get rid of some of the blank lines so the two things clump up to the test cases clump together, or add some extra blank lines so they're visually separated. There you go. That's good enough. Okay, good job. Whatever.
Can't make
So
these
we've
two
got. So
separate
now
tests.
we've got.
We could make it two separate tests, but that was kind of interesting. Had we make it two separate tests, we would not have exposed that error.
Right.
Oh.
We would have had a mysterious error later.
Pat would have shipped buggy code, and some tester would have.
Somebody would have complained.
Somebody would have complained.
You know, and it would only have happened when there was a something failure and you restarted
Yeah, right,
the
right,
database and suddenly all hell breaks
Right,
loose.
right.
So you're out in the field. So that was a very nice catch. Anyway, where we are, so we have a legitimate database. Now the question is if we want to take the next step and our database or something, our requests are in a, what's easiest for you guys, a file?
Yes.
Stick it all in a file?
Yes.
Okay. So they're all in a single file.
Sure.
Okay. So that's the next thing, I guess, right, Amitai?
Is to be able to save our state when we exit so we can load it when we come back?
Oh, so but bulk load is so easy now because now loading it is you go to a file, you suck it out of a file, you pass it in. In fact, the reading of the file is in the test case, or to a database. So like this is almost a non-thing. But should we do it?
So if we can just write a file in the bulk load format, then we have the feature.
I know what's not happening. What's not happening is in the real muffin land, there is no persistence going on. So the next thing is to write something out. So we now said if we have a database, we can read from it. What we don't have in behavior is that muffin land naturally is putting things out into the database, building it as we go along. Right? So in terms of the hexagonal architecture, we need to pass in where is the database so the muffin land can add to it. Are we all in agreement here?
Yeah.
Actually add Postgres database in this point?
No, we're going to stay with our little array. Our array is going to be our database.
Oh.
So we're going to pass in the array, just like otherwise later we would pass in a Postgres database.
Okay.
And muffin land won't know like which is which. It won't care.
Okay.
Only we will know. So what's the next test that we do? Now we have to literally pass in a database. We faked it that time. We passed in a pile of requests. So, and is it the baker that does it? Because we had a historian, and the historian may come back to life. He's currently chilling somewhere. Can we see, so how do we do now? Go back and show in Muffin Land, is that the middle one?
Yes.
Go and show where the empty database thing is. So, this is going to be new code for you to look at for a moment here, Amitai. Def handle get muffin. Are you looking at the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it gets the muffin ID from the request. Then it's asked the baker, please give me that muffin, and then you see it says the baker ain't got no muffins, yo.
Awesome.
That was
That was definitely Alistair.
That was joint. No. He typed one. We just played off of that one. That was totally it.
That's yes anding all day long.
Oh,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
okay.
that was improv. That was
Yeah.
that's the best. That's the best function name in the entire system.
I mean, this is what happens when
So far.
brilliant OO designers in a room, you get it.
And a musician.
You get that.
And a musician. Okay, egg got a muffin dish. So I used to have a historian, and the historian knew that there had been no history. Right now, the baker knows that there are no muffins, so it's all perfectly legitimate. When we do the post, you see where it's under handle post a little bit further down? The historian still has a very tiny role to play, and we have the historian say, "Hey, note that that there was a request." The historian doesn't do anything except keep track of the fact of history, right? That's why it's the historian. My question here, so that line could stay. The easiest thing is to just give the historian the responsibility to put stuff into the database. So we would pass in an empty array at the beginning, and we would add one request, and then we would ask the historian to tell us stuff about it, and we would see that the historian had put something into the array, which they now have something. Are you following me?
Yes.
Okay, that's sufficient design to the array thing.
Yeah.
Are you with us on the tie?
Yeah.
Good deal. So what's the test? Let's go back and write a test.
Say, I think it's like test 04, historian records history, or historian adds to database.
Correct. Which adds to persistent.
We've been calling it a database.
Okay.
It is a database.
Do we have the word database anywhere up there?
No. We've been calling it a database.
No, we haven't. There's no proof.
No,
there's no proof. Kinetic energy, all the molecules got pushed by the
Just blowing smoke again, man. You know me. Just blowing smoke.
Okay. Historian adds to history.
Don't call a database.
Adds to history.
As to the vellum or the scroll or something.
Question: do they already do that? Doesn't the historian already kind of do that?
Put the end of your def, and then look at the historian. Find the historian somewhere. Find the historian somewhere. So the historian has a thing called the posts. Now the posts never gets used. Post was me speculating what history looks like. Now we can have a copy of the posts in memory, which is what we got there, or we could have the historian have, like, quote, the array, the thing that persists. Well, we need names that said, I don't want to use the word database because database is like Postgres, right? The shelf, the storage unit, the storage of the warehouse, warehouse, refrigerator, loading with.
I would put muffins on a shelf.
Jam up put muffins on.
No, because these are posts.
Or a
This
case.
is the history of requests.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not the history of muffins,
Oh.
right? So these are all the.
Well,
this
you
is
could-
all
Well, then in
You
a
can
book,
place
I'd
you
put
can
them in a
place-
book. I mean, as a historian, we would have a book of
shells.
A ledger.
Shells.
Ledger.
The
Ledger.
librarian, right.
A
or a
ledger.
book, yeah. Ledger's good.
Okay.
A log.
The law, yeah.
There we go.
Chronicles.
Chronicles.
But a Chronicles
Chronicles of the Muffin Land.
We have a pile of requests. So anyway, so we're going to replace the word database with this word,
Chronicles of Muffin.
with the warehouse or the something.
Chronicles.
We need a word just with it.
Well, but so that's
So we're
interesting
gonna
because
pass
this
in-
dude doesn't know about muffins. So in the historian's
no.
world, muffins do not exist.
Correct.
Right?
He knows
Correct.
about Muffin Land, though, right?
Nope.
Or he
No.
knows- The
So
historian
it's
is-
given. He's given. In fact, there's nothing here. Got add request, but I didn't even know what a request is. He adds a thing, right?
That's a thing.
So he just knows about history. What's he know about?
So
Oh wait,
we need to
historians
pass
know
in.
about events, and I mean maybe this is tricky because event is a weighted term, but
Yeah.
isn't he recording a series of events?
At the moment, historian has no need to know. What is being stored.
Right. So I'm
So
saying like
it's back-
request could be as simple as event or theme.
It's thingy. It's thingy. Right. Now it's a hint to the reader that it's going to be a request, so it's the confusion for your readers.
Right.
Request, not a muffin.
Right.
But anyway, so we're going to pass in the historian. This is the pattern called dependency injection, which I like to call configurable dependency. So the configurable dependency here is we're going to pass in either the database, the warehouse, the storage unit, or we're going to pass in an indicator as to what kind of a storage unit the thing is. So we could literally pass in the array and the add to it, when we go to a file system, we would pass in a thing that understood. Because all he's going to do is this left arrow is going to go to the warehouse.
Right.
The warehouse thing. What we need is a thing to pass in. So what do you want to pass in? Do you want to pass in the array?
Yeah.
So in test 04, you're going to have to again do app equals muffin and move and something. Right. And what's legitimate? I don't happen to care for this app.baker stuff, so we won't do that. Right.
Well, so we don't need anything right now. I mean, in terms of we can pass an empty database, and then we make our post request, and then we verify.
Who knows this sort of stuff? Muffinland is the proper place to be passed in. You would do app.warehouse equals empty array. I'm speaking pseudocode. And then Muffinland legitimately knows about the historian, will say, historian, please use this as your warehousing.
So then does that go in bulk load? If we bulk load an empty array, it's at that point that it passes it off to the historian?
Don't go back there, please. Like, leave that alone. No. Don't go back, and we will refactor to that. I'd rather add something and then find the parallels and then clean it.
Okay.
Right now, my question is, it's kind of a little bit new for me. You have to pass in a warehousing device, and it would have to get passed to the Muffinland. It's the only legitimate access from this outside world. Right. Okay. So go ahead and write app dot. What kind of a verb would you like here? Anybody? Use warehouse and then array new. Right. Now this will give us a behavior that works for arrays when you go to a file system. It'll break, right?
Yeah.
But
We can implement
that.
something that has the same interface as
Okay. In fact, the database looks like an array, and a file system can look like an array for our purposes. So this could work for the time being, yeah?
Yep.
So good. So use warehouse there. Now what would we want to test?
Now we need to post something to the web.
I'm happy to see if I could ask for, now we should get MPDB. So now if we do a get on 0, we should get an MPDB. It's a legitimate answer. Do you remember that?
Yep.
So it's a legitimate answer to get an MP, and we'll change the word MPDB because it says DD, which is not allowed to say. If you have any stylistic comments on the tag, most welcome.
So I forget what it was, but I guess we could just watch it.
It's called it's just called MPDB or something. No, it's just MPDB. Out action is MPDB, and it'll fail. And there's no muffin ID and there's no muffin body. Just get rid of those two muffins. No, they just aren't.
We want to make sure they're not.
I'm not sure it even returns anything.
What's your password for your method?
Amitai, are you following and are you content?
I'm following. I think I'm a little uneasy with the historian metaphor because I can't imagine what a historian's doing in a bakery.
Correct. And my question, every time that we try to put behavior into the historian, we find out it belongs in the bakery, and the historian goes back to sleep again, right?
What if we had a cashier?
Cashiers don't know histories of things, do they?
But their machines do, or maybe what's the name of the machine they use? I don't even know.
Yeah. Okay.
Point of sales is POS.
I don't know why historians in a bakery, but I do know historians keep track of history.
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
know if
he would
cashiers
also,
keep track of history.
Sounds like a joke. Historian walks into a bakery.
Okay, are we going?
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Run it.
Okay.
Just run the test.
As your compiler, I spot an error in the instantiation of Muffinland.
Where?
I think it's not camel case, it's just a lowercase l.
Yep. So this is going to fail with unknown error, use warehouse.
Correct.
Undefined method, use warehouse.
Good. Let's go add it to Muffinland. You put it toward the top, please, because this will get very rich. I'm thinking of the other, because I'm gonna, pull the stuff into the real muffin line.
Oh, after bookload.
Yeah, right. That seems to be the kind of place. Use warehouse W. And now there it's going to tell the historian.
Well, this should pass. I would expect this to pass.
Okay, go. Yes.
Assuming that we got the out action.
Let's try it. Did it pass?
Yep.
Is that what that green is down there?
Yes.
So that what it looks like?
Yep.
Oh, so MTDB was the correct answer.
Yep.
Ah, cool. So, all right. So it didn't do any damage. And now what we want to do is do a regular add function, an add in the test, and we would like somehow to find out that the warehouse had gotten bigger by one request.
What do we call it? It's handle requests?
Yeah.
Requests via API.
All right, look at the top if you need.
I
Request
need.
via API.
I need. So let's see. It was.
That one.
So here we go.
Yep.
Except we need one with post, so we need this one.
Okay.
Request via API, app, post, ignored, add, muffin contents. Okay.
Now, what we test is not that the muffin is there because we believe that, but we're testing something about the warehouse.
Yeah. Well, actually, we should be able. So.
Because if we ask for the contents, that's talking to the baker behavior that's already been done.
In that case, if we were to say warehouse is this, and use the warehouse, then we can just assert on the warehouse directly.
Fine, but that means we have to get the warehouse out.
No, we don't, because we have the warehouse. We already have a reference to it.
How do we get it out of muffin lane?
I don't think we need to. We passed it in the muffin lane. So assuming that we don't.
Show me. I'm not buying it, but.
Expect, let's see. Warehouse should not be.
Oh, wait. Oh, this is really interesting. Oh, man. It's very object-oriented. I missed that. I'm used to, so we passed in an object and it got changed.
Yep.
Do we want to test that the warehouse should be empty before we post that request?
That's correct. I mean, that was subtle. It works for this test. Is that the way we want to have things? Doesn't matter. It works for now. Did you follow that, Amitai?
Yeah. I was suggesting we should also test to be sure that before we request via API with the post, the warehouse should be empty. And I had one more assertion for that. Because we defined it as empty and nothing we did was intended to add to it yet.
We haven't actually called muffin line anything when you write that. But.
Well, so the first thing I say is I guess if we run this, it'll fail because it is empty, right? So we already know that it's empty if the test fails.
Just run it.
Yes.
Okay. Either way, wouldn't matter.
So I like this because we're treating the database as something completely external to Muffin Land. So we can interact with it directly. We populate the database directly, like we did in the test above.
Yeah, and I would never have thought of that, so that was cool. What you just said, because I was bothered that we were doing it directly, but I didn't remember that it is external.
Yeah.
So we can look at it through our own. Oh, cool. Nice. Thank you. That was my aha. I got an aha. We're already, like I call out my ahas when I get them. Because then later when we have to report on them, either I don't remember and I say, see, I already said it, or I do remember and I repeat it. Either way, I'm excused. So that was my aha, was the fact that the database is, or the warehouse is external and we can operate on a separate whenever that's good. Okay, so it fails, right?
Yep.
Where did it fail?
That it expects it to not be.
And it is empty. Got it. So we're back in the code, def use warehouse, W. Now we really want this thing to talk to the historian and tell the historian to use warehouse W. Right? That's all it should say, right? Use warehouse W. Cheating it. And use warehouse over in
Now, here's a bit of a problem with the post. So the post is just wrong. It's just wrong, wrong, wrong. Yeah, because that was a nice thing, but it's not external. And the persistence, the warehouse, by definition, is external. Is the definition of in here, it works to say the posts equals W, but if it's a file, it's not going to work. If it's a database, it's not going to work.
Not necessarily.
Okay, keep going. So we can keep going ignorant. Ignorance is bliss. You keep going, and when it's time to change it, there'll be less to change than I expect.
So it can work with a file or a database, assuming we implement an object that has the same interface as what we're using here.
I believe you.
Which is currently append in each.
Okay, it works. Because it will, hopefully, if we have time, we're going to make this go to a file. I'd love to see this go to a file.
I think we can do it.
Okay.
I have a question about our intent for historian. Are we intending that historian records only the posts and does not record the gets?
In the long-term future of the website, it will do both. And because there will be 15 million requests over a several-year period, and there will be like 10,000 posts over a several-year period, and the posts are the actual content of the system. So I elected to just store the posts for now, and the requests will be later under a different. So it'll be two different records, two different streams.
Okay, then I want to reiterate my suggestion that if I'm reading this naively and I don't really understand the problem space, and I read through test 4, historian adds to history, I might read that as warehouse should not be empty. Could be true because the get put something in there, after it returned us the response. Maybe it put something in there, and that could be why that test passes, and I wouldn't be able to tell. So that's why I suggested that maybe we test after that it is still empty. That shouldn't have done anything.
Got it. Go for it.
So, and Omni-type saying right here?
Or maybe after, right after the previous stanza.
Wait, where? Oh.
149, yeah. Exactly, right after that, warehouse is empty, we didn't do anything to it, we meant not to do anything to it.
I missed your suggestion the first time, and now I'm
Right. And then when you change it, you'll know that you never meant it before, and now you have to mean it.
Got it. Our typist is taking a bio break, so it's a good time.
Bio break. Okay.
That's excellent.
Take a human. Well, what about this comedy tonight, 8 o'clock?
I did not really enjoy stand-up comedy. If it's more stand-up comedy like that, I won't do anything.
It's improv comedy and it's seated.
It's any kind of music. And real theater, but I don't do too well with that one person.
This is not a one-person thing. It's like a group.
Oh, okay. If there's any music, that would be super wonderful.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. Scooch that. I'll scooch back. All right, good deal. So does it work now?
Yep.
No. What's the next thing? No, the next thing is to link. So we had a bulk load, but it should not be.
So should the bulk load mess with?
So basically, yeah. What we want to do is actually to fill up a warehouse, and then tell it to use a full warehouse, but that's what we're still doing, right? So the next thing would be now we have a conflict here because the historian is using a warehouse W, but it didn't tell the baker to reset the muffins, right?
Right.
So basically, use warehouse isn't done until we get a fresh muffin tin, to stay with the metaphor, and have the baker make all new muffins based off of the request stream that's in the warehouse, right?
Well, so here's something to consider. I think this name is off because, as we said, we don't bulk load muffins. We bulk load stuff that gets turned into muffins. Literally, we bulk load stuff.
Right. Our baker bulk load from the outside is a false thing. It's not the right thing. It should never be the case that from the outside world we tell the baker to bulk load muffins.
Right. And we don't.
Those tests will go away because they're incorrect in terms of behavior of the system. It should never test 2 and 3, which tell from the outside world to replace all of the muffins with a new set of muffins. Won't happen because that will come under the warehouse behavior.
Well, wait. So test 2 and 3 are the same, just with slightly different design. Which one are we asking? Right? But so this is what I was saying earlier: is that bulk load to me was semantically the same as warehouse.
Except when you use a warehouse, necessarily with the bulk load, you don't say anything about the warehouse. The whole bulk load thing will go away. There will never be a version. That test in the end will vanish.
This test
yeah,
goes away.
yeah, 2 and 3 will vanish because bulk loading to the baker from the outside world is not an allowed action of the system.
But so here,
The only way bulk load works,
but we're not
use that when we say use warehouse.
Yeah. Oh wait, so this is not telling the baker to reload from that bulk load from the outside. The outside, in this design, the outside world has no idea that a baker exists. They're just telling
I'm with you, but yes, that bulk load is really the synonym with use warehouse.
Yes.
Okay, but let's go back to don't touch it now.
Well,
for what we're doing, we're trying to go forward here. So what we want to have happen, though, is for this to be correct behavior, is when we tell the historian use this warehouse, the historian has to do that bulk load to the baker.
So, and I think in order to check that, we can just do a request here. We request that we get the thing out, because currently, we're not going to get it. It's still going to return empty DB, because the baker doesn't know about whatever came through the warehouse.
I'm going to delete all those lines. They're not going to exist, so don't add anything to that test.
No, I'm not. I'm
Okay,
suggesting
okay.
that this is the assertion that we
Oh,
want.
put it there. Let us see. So I'm going to tell you, he's navigating and driving at the same point. So we're both like at the fast end of the whip.
Let me try to restate what I think you're discussing, which is that on Muffinland, bulk load makes sense. On Baker, bulk load doesn't make sense. And on Muffinland, bulk load is the same as use warehouse if we do it right.
I think you said it wrong.
Do they?
In the future, so bulk load was a stage we went through designing. Bulk load, the method to Muffinland will vanish because it's not. The legal move is to tell it to use a new warehouse.
Right.
Using a new warehouse will do the bulk loading, but that's not a legal operation from the outside.
And telling the baker to bulk load is not a thing that exists either.
Outside is also right. Well, I think we the point. You said something, and I thought we were going there, but we've gone a different direction. What was it you said? Reading from the outside. Amitai, you were saying when we read it from the outside, did we get that taken care of?
I think we did, yeah.
I thought that was our should be empty line here.
Okay, good.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
So what are we trying to do? We're still testing stuff.
You know what? I guess you know what I think happens is
Okay. How you will get 0, you should get something.
Yes.
The warehouse is not empty.
And that test will fail.
And that should be part of this inside of the same thing.
So right here.
Okay.
So we actually, you're right. So we don't need anything in the warehouse. We know that we added this is, I think this is the test that we want, and it will fail.
We'll do both because we're going to add. No, because that. Sorry, 1 second. Warehouse should be empty. That only says buffers. But into the bulk load. No, we need to load in a non-empty warehouse, and then do a get straight on it and see that the muffin got in there.
Okay.
So if we don't.
So it's a new test.
That would be okay. We'd have a view if it's the same or different one.
All right.
Yes, because we're loading in a non-empty warehouse, correct. That was 5. Adding warehouse, load muffins.
It's nothing.
So now, if you do like above, but the warehouse is going to be non-empty, if you will get, it should be right there.
So,
We only need 1 item in it. I don't think we need that.
alright, so let's get this bad boy. Instead of bulk load,
Yeah.
we're just going to use warehouse.
Yeah. You looked at app equals muffin and you did
Mm-hmm.
You want to do warehouse. I think you want to do warehouse equals or packet request. Right, and now you just do a get and it should be there.
Yep.
Are we in agreement on that?
Yes.
Are you with us?
Yeah, that suddenly made it a lot clearer. Yep.
Run it, it'll fail.
I expect it to fail.
Well, because right now this story doesn't say.
I expect it to fail.
Right.
So it fails, and I double check. That's what I think. Yep, got an MTDB.
Okay. So the repair for it is in use warehouse. Now the part that's next interesting is now suddenly the historian has to know about the baker.
Does he?
Oh, there you are. There you are.
See, if it was a cashier, they would work in the store together, and the cashier would know about the baker.
I'm buying it. I don't know in the long run. Right now it passes all of mine. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yep.
Do we want to run it?
Yep. I'm uneasy, but I would be uneasy no matter what we type. So, did it pass?
Yeah.
Can we? Are we okay in waiting or commenting up tests 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, whatever they are? Because they're not allowed. And then
Let's just kill him.
Kill them. All right.
Here, and then we delete the bulk load method.
There we go. Thank you. And we run the test again.
Nice.
The whole of the numbers. Often when bulk load goes away, it's a very strange auto repeat confuse.
Yeah.
If your bulk load goes away, and there we go. Good. Right, and then
Seems likely to be a good change.
yeah, and then you take away bulk load there.
Oh.
So is this making semantic sense? Behaviorally, this is making sense, right?
Do we have anything on Baker we wanted to get rid of?
No, because the baker's going to do the bulk load as before.
Okay, right, okay, yep.
And the only duplication that's a bit weird is that, and it still is a bit weird, that the historian is logging. Oh, have we done that? We haven't. Have we done anything where we can watch the historian? What we want to do is to take a non-empty warehouse or an empty warehouse, add something to it, and see that the database got changed and the muffin got changed.
Mm-hmm.
Have anything like that?
Non-empty warehouse.
It could go with an empty warehouse. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so here's an empty warehouse.
Right. And we add something to it.
Directly? You mean directly?
No, I'm sorry. We do a polite post. We do a post
So right
to the
here.
system, and we can get back a proper response from a get as well as it not being empty. We want both that the first entry in the warehouse and a get on the first item both produce.
I think we're.
We can merge these two, yeah? Merge these two test cases?
Because what did we do here?
Well, so here
We have a
we've got-
warehouse request. Hang on, let me read test 5. Because you're saying it's already there. Warehouse is a request. We tell it to use it. Did it get, and it's there. Right? Do we have anything that shows that both the warehouse and the muffin tin got updated when we did a post? I don't see it.
Do we care? We don't care about the muffin tin. The muffin tin.
I want to know
Internal class.
that when we do a get, because they're different things, that when we do a get, I said muffin tin euphemistically, directly with get.
So I guess I thought that's what.
Okay, we added an empty warehouse, and we see when we did a post that it's not empty. We haven't done it. We added, what's number 5? Adding warehouse request. Warehouse. Can you just push that warehouse equals request and after put about request equals construct request?
No, I mean I can't because this is referencing request. And that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm
Warehouse.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm not convinced. I would like to see it done explicitly. So
don't the first
fact
test
that
do a post and a get?
the fact that we're arguing this long is too much.
Yep.
Already. Let's just add it.
So what am I adding?
You're going to put in a warehouse with something in it, or I don't care which, and then we're going to do a post, and then we're going to see that both the warehouse changed and we get the get.
So I want to do an empty one.
No, you can't, because we needed one. If you look at the title of the
Well, you
test.
just told me. It was
No,
empty one.
no, but you can't change the test. You can add to it. You can't change the existing one.
Okay, so we want to post in here, and then do a get, and make sure that the warehouse
between that
bigger.
line and the end, add another. We're going to add another should thing, right? So now we do a post.
So we want this request via API,
Sure.
and then we verify that the size is 2.
Oh, we should be able to look at the array.
Right.
About the size, we'll look at it.
Oh.
Because
So
we have a request.
warehouse. So the second element.
Is it? Yes.
Should equal.
Yes. Equals.
B.
Where's our request? Construct request post.
Right here.
Right here. It's redundant, but it doesn't matter because this could have. Yeah, that's fine. Request, right? This is the same one.
Now it's different. So this request via construct request is the one that gets passed in directly through the warehouse. And the second request that we make is actually going through the app and modifies the database.
I understand. I know what's in my head. I don't know the shortest number of words to say. And I can't point because I can't use your screen. Go back up to the top of the file. And you see we've got 2 functions, request via API and construct request. See, this is app.handle request, and we thought request via API could go away one point. I'm going to do app.handle space request inside this test case. And there's a reason. You're going to construct a second request. So you constructed request 1, which says what? A. Now create a new request, and it'll have a B. No, not animal response equals.
Well, I'm going to change it.
Oh, okay.
There. I disconnected.
We're going to do request 2 equals construct request with a banana in it. It can be a banana instead of disability. And now we can do the app.handle request 2, and now warehouse of 1 should equal request 2. And a get on 1 should also produce banana. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
You're okay with all of that?
Yeah.
What was in request via API that you didn't want here?
You wanted to get a direct handle to our request object so that we can reference
Oh, I
it.
see. I see. Yep,
We
right there.
factoring where we split it, and so that thing request via API does 2 things. First, it constructs requests, and then it does the app.handle. I needed that explicit request to be present because we wanted to test that the request that we sent in is the one in the database in the warehouse.
And double equals in Ruby is the reference comparison.
Double
Yes.
equals what
Yes, it is.
in RB?
Yeah, in our warehouse, online 127. So we expect this one to fail.
Because you have that as banana in both, and it should be
I
apple
expected
in one
that.
and
The test.
banana in the other.
What
Fails.
fails? What is it? Because I might be looking at something else.
Shouldn't be banana in both. right?
Undefined local, well, it fails on Pat has a typo.
Line 130.
I expected it to pass.
Are we still pending?
No, it's been replaced. So When warehouse goes in with request 1, which is A, did it pass?
Yeah, it did.
Right, that's what I expected. Did that surprise you?
Not anymore.
Okay, what was the difference?
I was thinking that we hadn't hooked up the baker for
That one right there, right?
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be there.
Right.
Just to be amusing, if you please change the muffin body to apples, so we got apples and bananas. I know it's
I like to
cosmetic.
eat.
If we had another one, it would be a chicken. But,
Bananas.
you know, what do we have to?
I like to oot.
Okay.
Bananas.
Right, so do you see that? So what happened is we gave a new warehouse which had an apple muffin in it. And we added a banana muffin. And I want to make sure that both the warehouse shows the request to add the banana and the bakery actually has the banana.
Oh, okay.
Right. All right,
I don't know what we have, but I want to commit.
that's it, totally. No, it's good, it's running.
So we have a warehouse. So basically we'll say we introduce the warehouse.
Well, yeah, okay. So warehouse, whatever, yes.
Warehouses store muffins.
Yeah.
They don't store muffins, they store warehouses.
So requests, something like that. Now, we're kind of at the end of our time, but if I get left alone with this, I literally would not know how to turn this into a file. Can you show me how to do a file thing?
I bet, so I suspect that about half an hour to 45 minutes total we get file base.
Do you want to stay? What's your look?
I'm happy to stay and try that.
Amitai?
I would do a hard time box at 45 more minutes.
Amitai?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. This would, when left on my own, this would take me 2 days or 3 days to add this file thing. It's all unfamiliar. By the way, the code we produced is much cleaner than I would have produced on my own. So this little mock programming thing should pay for itself from my perspective.
I need to quote that and put it on the RubySteps website.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what I'm going to do this file-wise, if we look at everywhere that this warehouse is actually used, which currently is only by the historian and the baker, right?
By the historian and the muffin land.
By the historian and the baker. Because we use the warehouse and Muffinland ignores it. It just passes it to the historian, passes it to the baker. So we look inside the historian and the baker and say, what methods do we use on our warehouse? So we have size, we have append, and that's it. And then in our baker, for our baker,
We have at.
we use muffin tin, so we use at. Wait a minute. No, we don't even. We just use each. Because it's bulk load.
Oh, right.
So we have append and we have each. There's one more. And we have size.
Right.
So anything, if we have something that responds to append, each, and size, then we can at least read from the file system. Yep.
Show me.
Yeah, right.
So do a file at test 6. Files can be warehouses.
It's going to be,
You're basically the same as that, but you're just going to make the warehouse of. You have to create a file with the content with the request in it. And maybe a shorter version of the proof.
so this is what we want, right? Just to this point.
Let me just read that. Get the request, send it in, and do a get. Yeah.
So this would be
No,
reading
no,
from
no,
the
no,
file, but
no,
not
no.
writing to the file yet.
Right, thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. It doesn't do the second part, which is appending to the file. Okay. Okay, but you claim if it's smooth, you could put them both in. It should all run clean. We'll do it one step at a time.
Yep.
Good. On board. At muffin new request warehouse equals. Now you have to create a file with the request in it.
So yeah, I would call it like file warehouse.
I literally don't know file stuff, so whatever you type is needed.
So this is a new object, right?
Why
Inventing a new class.
Why are you creating a new class and not just having a file?
Let's see what we can do about that.
I would assert that you just have a file.
Yeah.
Why,
Okay. So
Can you create a new file? How do you make
Yep.
a file?
So what goes into our file?
Just a request. The request is a string.
Is a string?
It's got a bunch of fields and properties, so CSV or JSON or something like that.
Oh, no, beg your pardon. No. How do I? How do you serialize? Because if you do an inspect, there's some repetition in it.
I mean, we can do. We could do. What is it like a? What's it called? It's like not encode. Serialize, deserialize, whatever. It's like dump, maybe dump and load. Ruby, I think it's dump and load. Let's try something in IRB real quick.
Yeah, let's see how you do IRB because I don't need that stuff.
So just IRB. Yeah. So you have an object new. Oh, shoot, I forget because it's definitely Marshall. That's what I'm trying to get at. So we have O is an object. Object.new. We have Marshall.dump O. Right. So this is our dumped. Marshall.dump O, and then we've got O2 is Marshall.load dumped. And now we have a new object back.
Well, show me how to do that now. I heard you hum a few bars. Now let's see which the song gets
Watch
sung
me sing, baby.
in 4-part harmony. 3-part harmony. Okay. 2 days of research, I would not have produced that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here.
Wow.
All right.
And Marshall's
Warehouse equals file open warehouse text do F, where F is the file, F append dump the request.
So that's going to be a sequence of marshaled requests.
Yep.
Do we know how to? Can we read that safely and know that the records will end where we think they do?
Yes, the reading of that. So the knowledge of the what's the undumping?
Load.
What load?
Load.
The knowledge of loading that is not going to be natural to a historian or no.
So this is why I was getting at an object that wraps it to provide the interface that we need to do our dump and load.
Let's go slowly like this before you create a new object. You were one step ahead. I just want to see it. Now what do we have to do to make this work? I have to use warehouse, and so these warehouses are going to...
I got some dirty shit on it.
All right.
So
We'll clean it up later, Amitai, when he's not looking. Let's go see.
All right. So sorry.
So what I said in the beginning was correct. Is you can't use this stuff natively because the historian's just going to use a left bracket on a request. Expect these things, and but the actual thing is going to be different.
So here's the dirty.
Okay, what's the dirty?
So we know that we need to respond to each. We need to respond to size, and we need to respond to append. But we don't need append right now. So def warehouse dot each buck. Def warehouse dot size. Def warehouse dot So this could actually be a module. It probably should be. Let's do it this way.
Do it in line so I don't have to.
I'm doing it in line.
Flashes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Won't flash, but I'm just wrapping this into a module instead.
Keep going.
Oops. We have a module. There's a file warehouse.
So Pat, you're proving the point that you think this needs to be a class, but one piece at a time inline.
Well now.
Yeah, he's deriving it this way.
Yeah, and now, so it doesn't necessarily have to be because I'm saying.
No. It should be because that's the requisite adapter in the hexagonal architecture pattern that it's creating.
So now I'm saying that we have this warehouse object, and now adding the methods that we need, And right in here, this is where we're able to serialize them and deserialize them.
Right.
So first of all, ignoring that stuff, this test is right? And so now we just need to make it work.
Yeah.
So in that case, what I want to do is just make sure that our setup is right at all, and see that we get some kind of error messages that make sense. It should just blow up.
Blow up.
Module definition in method body. Okay. So we can't do that apparently, but we can move it up here so we don't have very much screen flashing.
Okay. Right.
See. Probably failing that it doesn't. That class doesn't exist. No dump data is defined for class string IO. Okay.
Do you have to define your serialization method or something?
You know what I wanted you to do before you did all that, just to test your little Marshall dumpy thingy, is to actually print that out or look at the file or something.
Yeah.
Can we look at your warehouse file? Does it exist?
I don't think we have anything there.
Can you just do?
Well, I want to
put warehouse file, whatever dump. Can you, after you do warehouse equals file open, can you do something so we can actually look at the contents on it?
Sure.
I'm curious.
I think it's blowing up somewhere. I don't know if it's blowing up on this line, maybe. So let's just double check and see that it gets through there, because it may be possible that we can't dump a request the way it is. And yeah, so it seems like that's the case, that it doesn't like. It doesn't like
So
our.
the way we're putting things into the file, what can we put into the file that will work? So if we have a thing which is an ML request, is there a serialization function? There must be. You shouldn't have to do Marshall dump. Isn't there a serialize?
Well, I mean, that's what it is.
If you do an inspect, it does a lot of repetition. It doesn't either reconstruct. What we want is something so we literally reconstruct the same object type, maybe you can say.
Marshalling library converts collections of Ruby objects into a byte stream, allowing them to be stored outside the currently active stream. This data may be subsequently be read and the original objects reconstituted.
Yeah.
Converts collections. Maybe we can do them all at once.
Well, so it can do more. I think that there's something about the request object that it is having problems.
My point is, can you? How did you in your IRB when you simulated it? Did you just like print out what it did? Can you?
I did. So yeah. So what I want to do
test, so I see what it does.
See if we can put Marshall.dump.
That's it. I just want to see what it does. That's all I
Yeah.
want to do. The other part.
And I think it blows up because it doesn't like something about this request. So I want to.
Okay, it blows up in what way? Oh, the same thing.
It can't dump. So what I want to do is show the request just to get an idea of what that structure is.
Inspect.
So P is put with inspect.
Okay. Does puts not have the inspect? But P does have the
Correct.
inspect.
Puts does 2S and P does inspect.
What's inspect?
Inspect.
I didn't know that. I thought that P was the same. It was short. Now I know P is more general.
Inspect is a different method on Ruby for converting it into something like a.
Inspect will guarantee open up everything and put out readable text that you can read. Inspect will show all the bits inside of it.
I wonder if it's the rack request that causes the problem. Because there's a string IO. Yep, rack.errors. So that rack.errors is what's screwing us up in our rack.input too.
Okay, why?
Because it has an object of
string
IO and it can't serialize them.
Can't serialize string IO? What is string IO such that can't serialize?
Some objects built into Ruby.
You steal the library.
Yeah, we have a standard library expert here. It's going to be your next lesson. Well, I guess I don't know what a string IO is enough to, but the fact that it can't means that we can't put requests in a.
Well, so this is where I'm wondering if instead of doing serializing the rack, so we can't serialize a rack request. request. But we could serialize a muffin land request if that muffin land request is not holding on to a rack request object.
The muffin land request is nothing more than, in fact, it's just a superclass of. It's just a thing because I thought I would, at one time I thought I would change away from rack request.
Yeah.
And so I made this wrapper for it, and now evaporated. So in fact, ML rack request is completely no bogus thing anymore.
Well, so here's the problem
All
we have.
deleted.
Well, here's the problem. We have this instance variable my request, which is an instance of rack request, and that has inside of it.
Yeah, I got it. So fundamental to everything that I'm doing here is that I'm just exploring rack requests.
Okay.
And what you're saying is I can't serialize rack requests.
Nope. Not unless we do something to mess up the rack input and the rack.
I got it. If I knew what rack input or string IO, what is string IO? Can you look it up, please, quickly? Well, we have multiple people here.
So are we interested, if we could, in serializing all of this information? Is this valuable information?
Yeah.
Okay.
The model.
Pseudo IO on string object.
So, pardon my French.
Creates a new string IO instance from string and.
Mike, so the question is, if we reconstruct string and we don't have those string IO objects, so what do we lose, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Amitai, the kind of the basis for this is that most systems strip out all and throw away all the information they don't think will be useful, and then a little while later, the owner of the website finds out that it was useful. It would have been useful to have had it.
Right.
So underlying mantra is lose no information.
Mm-hmm.
The question is what happens if you lose the information that's at string IO, like how, what is it?
Can we look at it to see whether it's information?
We don't know. Yeah, what I inspect on string IO, it's like a communications port.
I think it's like a stream buffer interface around a string.
Right. So if you throw it away, you lose anything.
That's where I'm sniffing around. Yeah, if that's just data, not information, then we're not throwing away information if we don't keep it.
So rack errors is the error stream.
This says string IO has class read and write methods, so it can be passed to parts of your code that were designed to read and write from files or sockets.
Interesting. So
It's nice to have a string when you want to look at a file for the purpose of testing the file.
the input stream is an IO-like object which contains the raw HTTP post data.
That was interesting.
Oh, interesting. And the error stream. Okay, so input stream is IO-like object which contains the raw HTTP post data, and the error stream is outgoing. So we probably don't care. At the very least, we don't care about errors, I believe.
No, but the raw HTTP post data is where it actually stores it. So when you do an inspect, it kind of repeats itself a lot as to what was inside the post data. And it's basically rereading that string IO a bunch of times. If you look at this thing, you'll see it's got this A and the stuff multiple times. There's a request. Path info. Some of these things get repeated, like path info, and they tend to get repeated when you do an inspect. That's because it's going over that string IO multiple times, which is what I thought it would do. There's a bogus expansion here when you do the inspect. The real thing is in that way. Okay, but the problem is we can't serialize it, which is very strange. Why can't you serialize the string IO?
Are you using symbols? I think this is saying converting symbols to strings.
What you using? This is that thing you're using.
Just a different browser or search engine.
Doesn't track.
So I found something on GitHub, an issue where the same error message came up, and I can't read the issue discussion fast enough to see what to do, but it was the same exact error about serializing for the same reason. How can I give you the link to that? Can I just paste it in somewhere here?
Yeah, should be a chat window on the.
Okay.
Well, I don't know where it shows up. It is the left, but you click on it and the chat window shows up on the right.
Okay.
Maybe.
There it went. Yep.
So for this, are you using Google Hangout or Google Plus?
Google Plus Hangouts.
Google Plus Hangouts.
Differences. So we do marshalling tweets, inherit from to identity, raise exception, blah, 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 commit to finds, marshal dump. So yeah, I mean, one thing which probably wouldn't make sense is to define marshal dump and load on the string IO class. Actually, that might work because serializing a string IO should just be reading, if for our purposes, reading the string. And that's it. And then, so marshal dump would be self.read, and marshal load would be string.io.new with a string.
Okay, let's see.
I think. So we have to figure out what.
So I kind of understated the difficulty when I said it would take me 2 days to figure this out. It would take me 2 days to get to where we are, and then I would punt at this point.
So we want to see marshal dump and marshal load. So we need to define marshal dump and marshal load.
Okay. On our little thing.
On a string IO.
Right.
Okay.
As a short term thing potentially.
See if that gets us through this. Yeah.
And it's probably something that would not work in all cases, but for our purposes, it could be useful.
Inside that module? After.
No, I'm going to put it right here.
Do you want to do it after the end, the bottom end?
Sure.
The class is a class, you're extending
These both should.
Yeah, because I'll be outside the end. Lots of delays can do it.
So what I'm suggesting is a class string IO, and we need
To strike that.
def marshal dump, def marshal load. So I think that this is simply read, and this. I'm not sure how string IO works enough if we can change it under the hood.
Can we lie for the moment and just say, like, I don't know, empty string or nil for both of those and see if that gets us past this?
Oh, you know what? We can make marshal load a no op for the time being because we're not trying to load it yet.
We don't actually need these to work. We just need them to not work.
And to get past the string IO dying on dump.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Actually,
So-
that's kind of neat because we did a puts before, so that's why. But it may have totally screwed up our terminal.
Oh, that's cool.
Now it failed on something, and now we hate our lives.
If you type reset in that lower section, that may help.
Reset.
Yeah, you'll have to trust that you're typing it right. Yeah.
Whoa!
Points and a tie.
Yeah.
It would have taken me days to figure that out.
Well,
I would have
no
just
keyboard.
quit. I would just quit, and I would have started everything over again.
If you ran Unix machines over a serial terminal, you would know that command.
All right, so let's see what it's actually failing on. Oops. So use warehouse, undefined method each for nil class. Okay, so we got a little bit farther, which is on Baker.
It does have a size.
Baker on 61. I wonder. So on 61 requests dot each. So why is our requests?
Can I offer you put Baker and historian on these two windows because that's where you're going to be running inside.
So the thing that we're passing in is nil. So I guess this is not actually. Is warehouse? See, the warehouse is not nil. Warehouse dot should
Oh, okay.
Yep, so it is fine because file open does not return the warehouse. So, same thing, warehouse equals file.open. Now it should get past that line.
And is that going to be an open for read this time?
Not sure what's going to happen, but we did get past it, so that's kind of neat. We look, our error message is that we're getting nil. We haven't put anything.
Put things in the warehouse?
We haven't put it in there yet. Oh. Need to fix that. So now we have something in the warehouse. Well, actually, we don't know because we never tried to marshal dump it before.
Well, if you open the file, just understand, if you open a file for writing,
Yep.
and you don't put anything in it, the file itself shouldn't be a nil. It should have empty contents.
So it's not that the file, it's that our reference to file is nil because file open, when you give it a block, does not return the file object. So this is using like the around method pattern, whatever.
But I mean, it really created a file called warehouse.txt.
I believe so.
It just didn't let us hang on to it.
We have a warehouse text file.
Got it.
It's empty. So now we'll see if our marshal dump actually does anything.
Right.
If it works.
Why did you put a slash in at the end?
To split it for new lines.
Right.
So each one will have its own line.
Right.
Ah!
What was that?
Yes. It hates us. Oh, undefined method incoming contents for string. Well, that's better.
I mean, contents is the baker pulling the contents out of the request.
And I believe that's because we haven't done the load side of it yet.
The income is right on the right-hand screen.
So let's
You see that on the right-hand screen? Add muffin from text as incoming contents.
yeah, because we should be doing each on here.
Correct.
And now we're getting strings.
And now it's-
we need to
get the requests back. We need to get proper requests back.
So I think that's
So it's the
something.
Marshall load.
So wait a minute. So we have a file, and our file each.
Why is dump a read? Surely dump should
Hang on a
be,
second. We're not. So first of all, we're not getting into our each yet.
Which each?
The each that we defined in file warehouse. We're
Right.
actually getting an each that's on string, and we don't want that.
Right.
So we want this. I will remember one day not to try and delete the forward character. I expect a slightly different problem here. I expect nothing to happen. Instead of getting that error, well, it's just not going to do anything. It's going to ignore the block that we have, because it never does anything with the block. That makes sense? Because we got past through without doing anything with the block.
Keep going.
So, okay.
Are we
What does yield do? Yield means exit?
What is,
yield blocks? It passes a block into a method.
well, no, it's the opposite. When you have a block, it's calling the block.
Calls it-
Right.
calls it.
What happened if you just said Marshall.load at that point?
Then it wouldn't be doing anything because we have a block that's being passed in. It's our add muffin from text, and we need to call that block.
Okay. Oh, and block.
For
Got
each
it.
one.
And block. Okay. And yield will use the block?
Yeah, so yield implicitly calls that block. So this is using the explicit block syntax.
Got it. So go put the yield back in.
Block is a lambda kind of thing.
I actually.
Alright. Okay. So you can tell what's happening.
So it's a little tricky. All right, so we did that. I don't know what's going to happen here. We don't have our load yet.
You can enter chicken.
It's a good default.
It won't work. I mean, it needs a request object. I'll request object.
Isn't it actually request objects?
Well, that's what we have
What we
originally.
could
Apple and
do,
the
just to make it
bananas.
pass, is create a new request
Ah.
object there with a constant, right? So we could do that. We can make, when you've got your request equals construct request stuff, we could
Yeah.
make it, put a constant one of those in there, so those returns a valid one, it's just a constant. It doesn't. teach
Well,
us
we're
anything.
not trying. So this is not the request is serializable, except for the fact that somewhere in there's an instance variable that's a string IO.
Oh, okay, that's
So
true.
we're making
Sorry,
string
sorry,
IO
sorry,
serializable
got
for
it.
our purposes.
It's just chicken's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, at least it tells us that we're getting in the right place and stuff is weird. You know? Okay. Marshall data. Too short.
Chickens, plural. That's probably not it, though.
What's happening on line 170? So Marshall load. So you know
170
what? I wonder what happens if we just do string io.new.
Created incantations.
Oh, but Marshall data too short. I don't know what that means.
Look it up.
Well, let's see what stuff is too.
That's going to be Marshall.load complaining, right?
Yeah, so it's complaining on a load.
Mm-hmm.
We need to implement Marshall load. Oh, because it says an instance variable. Duh. I think. So the question is, what instance variables do we have here, and do we have any access to it whatsoever?
Or can you call one of those other things? Other settings?
What happens if we just stuff?
I would make those up a little bit higher too.
I don't know how. I'd love to, but I don't know.
Is that a TMUX split?
Can you take a look online at what does this error message Marshall data too
Yeah, I'm
short
looking
and see
right
if you
now.
can find any reference to it?
I see it. I see 2 seconds. That's not particularly helpful.
Can we, I mean, is the definition of string IO available to us to look at? Does Ruby make it available as source?
Yeah, I'm currently looking at not the source code, I'm looking at the API reference for it. And I don't believe the API reference, being API reference, talks about the instance variables that are in there, and so which instance variables we might want to be messing with.
Yeah, I would want to look at the class definition, and maybe it'll jump out at us.
Trying to see if I can get any of these things up. Shooting, Marshall data too short, compile.js files.
Are you using
Great,
binary
great sound clear.
IO?
What's that?
Are you using binary IO?
Nope.
No.
It will be a day one.
They also remove the file that cannot be loaded.
Marshall data is usually caused by the session data column in sections being too short to handle large session data. What? So do we even get into our code? Is kind of my first thing that I'm wondering. Because I don't know, I'm not positive. Oh, this looks more promising. Fine. No, not promising. Due to Rails magic, code was working well. When you tried it to store too much data in text field in MySQL, excessive data is being truncated. So maybe Marshall can't. It can't. Oh. There. I wonder if our new line is messing something up here. No, I wouldn't expect it to. Oh, you know what? Could be because I think our read lines has the new line at the end of it. So our Marshall has an extra new line that it doesn't need. It's a theory.
I was just wondering the same thing, so maybe.
Strip, Amitai, or trim? Strip.
Why would an extra new line character make something too long?
Because it wouldn't be able to, like, that would be a completely undefinable thing to load from.
I guess something syntactically it doesn't understand what that data is anymore because there's an extra character at the end of it. Okay. It's a hypothesis.
Yeah.
I bet it knows where to stop, and then it sees a new line, and that's the second thing that it doesn't know what to do with.
No love for us.
No.
Partial data too short. Well, now let's do a little more looking at Marshall and what we have to do in order to implement this jump. Dumping an object, the method Marshall dump will be called. Marshall dump must return a result containing the information necessary for Marshall load to reconstitute the object. So, is Marshall dump returning a result? It's just returning read. We need it to be returning maybe an array, something more interesting.
Are we perhaps being falsely lazy by trying to use Marshall directly, and maybe we should pick a format that we define?
Well, what I was wondering is if in the definition of a rack request, they have anything about how to serialize it. Did you take a look at that, Amitai, when he's doing this?
Sure, I'll take a look.
I'm just wondering if rack requests, all these guys have already thought about how to store a rack request on the side and bring it back again.
It's just saying that Marshall data is too short error notice on slow internet connection.
And again, the goal is to, when we read it back, get the identical object with the same contents.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the one string I/O contains the raw content, right? So if you don't put that one out, you don't have the content.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it also says when that the gem specs on the server express it.
The gem what?
The gem specs. You know what gem specs though, too?
No. But if something out of date, that would be
Hates me. Hates us. Data too short. So I want to know if we even get in here. Raise chickens. Raise more chickens. So that's the first one.
So you raise a chicken?
So we raised chicken, so that's good. So we're getting into our dump, which is we want. And now
And we have it say what it finds inside of dump? Like read? What does it read? You say
so I can say stuff equals read. That's stuff.
you say P stuff.
And then hopefully we raise more chickens.
So I just pasted a link, a blog post explaining that because a rack request is basically just a rack env hash, I can dump that hash to a file and reload it as a fixture in my specs. This is talking about test purposes, but I imagine the idea is the same, and there's some sample code here that takes a request and does some stuff to it to record it.
Amitai, can you email that to me because I don't have my computer open and I'll lose these links? Do you have my email address?
I do not.
It's the letter T, the word other,
Uh-huh.
and my name Alistair, Killer Alistair.
Gmail?
at AOL.com.
Okay.
Wow.
I use Gmail under protest for certain things where I have to have a Gmail account.
So we are able. So we do get in here.
What did you find with the printing of the stuff?
This is a string.
Kind of a string.
The string that looked like request.
I didn't see it, but we didn't look like a request. It looked like the same thing when you put a request.
Well, not, actually, no, it was less. So this was the string that came in.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to see.
What was this?
Started? Oh, add, that's the post data. Add equals add and muffin contents equals apple. That's the post data. That's the string IO. That is the string IO. Remember, I said we have to have this because the actual pack, the payload, is in that string IO that's in the thing you said, right? And that's what is the payload. And that makes sense. And that's the active important part. So we have to recover that. So that's a good thing to get back. That's what I would expect to get back.
So then
from your string IO, that's what I would expect to get
so
back.
there's something about.
And it will always be a string.
So when we did this raise chickens, we did get in here.
Raise more chickens.
Yep. So this was raise more. And I want to do one other thing and make sure that we're dealing with a new file every time, so that we're not somehow appending to that warehouse file. So I'm going to do that using this file utils library. And oops. And in here, file, we know we're going to.
And Matai, did you get my email address?
Yeah, it should be sent to you by now.
Okay, I'll look for it. I got my little iPhones what I'm reading off of. Okay.
So there's.
What does RM do?
You know what, dude? So something is tripping me out in that there's an empty string somewhere, and so I want to know. I think this is not quite right. So I want to get the lines to be a little bit better. Yeah, I know what I want. So I don't know. There might be an extra line in here somewhere, and maybe it's the new line messing stuff up. But basically, when we write it to the file, there's a new line in there. So I want to say lines equals read lines dot map. L. We can do it this way. That's a shorthand for L dot strip. And then we want to reject any lines that are empty. So we're stripping all the white space out, and if we have any empty lines, then we get rid of those too.
And so if that's the problem, then this will fix it.
If that's, Don't want more chickens.
If that's not it, I would like to look carefully at our file.open block one more time, because I'm not sure I understood it.
Yeah, it'd probably be useful to see the actual what's in warehouse.txt at some point, huh?
Yeah.
Is there anything in there?
From that. No such file. Okay, fine.
RM like remove?
Yep. So the idea being that if this happens to be, if the file exists there, that we want to delete.
So 148 to 150, are we sure that we are writing a sequence of requests to one open file, or are we opening it each time?
I don't quite follow what you mean. Hey, wait a minute. We got so much closer.
You get.
We got this on web hexagon. Oh, wait. I may have just no. We're in web hex.
Yeah.
Web hexagon.
Okay.
You're in the Baker bulk load.
Well, it's small. No, we're still in test small web hexagon. I'm a dork. Because does it? I think I just messed up. Yep, I just messed up here. Marshall data too short. Yep.
Yeah, it's not got anything with what's to do with what's in the string.
So that's what's in our warehouse. Our warehouse is some goofy dumped thing. And you know what? Maybe I was doing some premature optimization junk here with this new line, and I would sort of expect it to not mess with anything, but.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Marshall data too short.
Something's truncated from something, but we don't know what.
Yeah, and does the hexagon stuff still, I mean, the warehouse text still look funny inside there?
Yeah, it does. So if we cat the warehouse, it looks like we dumped something, but we're not able to load something.
What you dumped isn't very binary.
Right.
Is that one request, probably?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. The idea is now instead of doing a new line, so because we're trying to set up the database. We're not trying to log to it from the app yet.
Yeah.
We're trying to set something up that we can then do something with. So what is our stuff when we do this?
New stuff, dude.
It creates a new instance of string IO, passing it this incoming string. Could be that is not where it needs to be. So look, so our string.
The string is the correct string. I mean, that's what, from what you said. That's what I
Yeah, so we're getting this. So I would expect
the self-load is doing what it's supposed to do. Now, why do you do a new stuff? Why do you need a new string IO?
Because this is a class method.
Right.
So we're defining class methods. So we're trying to get a new instance of string IO because when it's loading, it's trying to build up a new one. So you see, we're calling new.
Oh, okay, got it. I see it. I'm trying to read this thing you sent me. Did you find anything in there?
I scanned it, but it looked like he was solving the problem of given a rack request, write it in a format that he could read back.
Because I can dump that hash to a file and reload it as a fixture in my specs.
Right, he was solving a different problem. He was solving the test problem, but.
You know what? I feel like maybe we could just try dumping to YAML or JSON instead of the Marshall. I mean, I still expect it would be the same problem, but I don't know.
Well, I'll have a different error.
We're 4 minutes away from the hard time box.
Which I think that's a good thing to hold too.
Yeah.
Because we're stuck at this moment. We'll be stuck for another half hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
So maybe that's a good direction anyway, is that if we're going to have trouble serializing, let's pick a format that we can read as we're failing to serialize.
You want to try putting it out to JSON just to see what you get?
Sure. I think we want a YAML. Very similar to JSON. So in this case, we want class.toYAML, and our other Marshall is now going to be YAML.load. I think that this can actually be a YAML.dump also. Probably need to add this to the gem file. Ooh, we probably don't because we have Sinatra.
We don't use Sinatra. You pick Sinatra.
I actually almost want to leave it in just simply. undefined method incoming contents for nil class.
Text that got rehydrated is a no.
So what is in our
File. Oh,
So we have
file.
something
When you do
in
the
the file.
file open and you write to it, can you just print the file?
How'd you
Neat.
get regular words? How'd you get regular words?
Oh, look, but
You went to YAML.
so we
instead.
lost our input and output because
Right.
we can't do anything.
Our load method doesn't do YAML yet, right?
We lost our post data also, so we actually lost the fact that it said add apple.
Mm.
And we were having that. It's actually lost the payload. Yeah, we lost it.
Yeah, so that there's something
String IO is
important
important
about
because that's
this.
got the type at the payload, right?
Right.
The input is actually the thing. All right, we're at the end. Let's call it. We know what the question is, but we don't know what the answer is.
Mm-hmm.
Payload's important. We need it. We don't have it. It's a research topic.
Research topic.
All right, let's go back. Been a long video.
Aha.
Anybody
Oh,
Continue
no.
broadcast. Continue broadcast.
Wait, I don't want to exit.
No, it says continue broadcast. There you go. So if anybody's been here for 2.5 hours watching this, good on you. Watch us suffering. We go, no, I found it. Don't do that. Don't do that. All you have to do is.
Why is our camera not on?
I see you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My
I
brain's fully
bet
fried.
if somebody watches this, or if we watch this later, we'll find that we asked a lot of questions that we kind of ignored those decision paths and went down this one, and now we're wishing we hadn't. I think we'll find out what those are if we were to watch this again.
So I can see his face. All right. So we're going to go back and do our little ahas and takeaways.
I think that was it.
I had a bunch of ahas and takeaways till we got sucked down this rat hole. I was doing real great when I've forgotten the active part of our session when things were going great.
Yeah.
I was learning and it was going good.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. I've
Yeah.
forgotten them all. Can you just
Yeah.
flash up the screen so I can see the code that we had up to but not including test 6, which you should put a return on it at the beginning and then we could commit. Say return and then broken or something, but everything is broken. Files can be warehouses is broken. Right, so, right.
Let's double check that our tests actually work.
Yeah, and then we can commit it. Okay, good. And then, how do you mark it when you're committing something that's currently broken?
Well, we're not broken, but we do have one test that is rolled out right now.
Okay, how do you commit that?
I don't know. Well, I mean, it just committed.
Commit
Oh.
comment. What's your commit comment?
Oh, to do load from file.
Okay.
It's like,
Good. So can you just go up so I can see good code because I don't want to look at that horrible stuff. It's hurting my ego. It's hurting my something. There you go. Stop.
Ah!
Stop. Okay. I like to be able to see the people on the video screen. There we go. Actually, mostly like to see him. All right, good. So that warehouse thing, passing in an array, was really cool. I like the tests. The historian the historian has come back to life briefly, right? It's not clear to me the historian has got so little to do that it may be that we put all of that on the baker. Right? I'm going to leave it like that for now, but it was very nice, clean, tidy code. We had some interesting twists and turns, but so I forgot my ahas. Remember I said I gave my aha.
Was it? I don't remember.
I don't remember. We're all worn out.
But you already said it.
That's right. It's on tape.
I wrote mine.
Good. Sure.
Reset.
reset.
From the. Oh my gosh.
You learned that the least painful way. The more painful way is to have to run the serial console and have it, shit all over the screen. And now what do you do? So it's easier to learn it this way. Take my word for it.
Natalia, anything from you? What did you get out of the session?
I think I got a more first-hand understanding of. I always understood hexagonal architecture as too abstract an abstraction for me to see how to use it. and now I see a little more about what you mean specifically from the specific, like, small decisions we made where you said this is how hexagonal architecture would represent that. Now I have a couple more specific ideas what you mean by it. I think it's still a little bit too abstract for me, but if we do some more of this, I might understand it better.
And can I make an observation along those lines? I know that some people, I think hexagonal architecture just has too many syllables for people to latch onto. Seriously, because it's like it sounds like it's something big and mysterious. And my understanding is it's literally simple OO design with strict guidelines about what to do when you're interacting with the outside world.
Right. The thing that you said that cleared it up the most for me, Alistair, was that right at the beginning when you said that the ports and the adapters are outside the actual objects with the behaviors, and the objects with the behaviors don't know anything about any of that, and they shouldn't, and they don't, and they can't. And when you said that, I thought maybe I do sort of know what this is already, because I sort of think that already.
Oh, I remember what my aha was the fact that the warehouse is external to the muffin land, and therefore in our tests we can go and read the warehouse directly. That was a surprise to me. And that is exactly a consequence of what you said. Since the muffin line doesn't know what the outside world is, and we know what the outside world is, we can use the outside world to look at the outside world, right? And that was like an implication of this thing that I had not considered. Jen, do you have any things you got out of this funny session?
Yeah, just I never heard of Marshall before. That was exciting to see that, and all those new exciting errors. Really, I don't know. It's always interesting seeing new errors. I kind of like errors. It's nice to see new ones. I didn't see how you fixed that last one, but
We didn't.
We didn't. It's still broken.
oh, it's still broken. Okay.
I'm-
Well, you got the when you cat the warehouse text, it actually says something else.
Oh yeah. No, well, so it was writing stuff to the warehouse
Oh.
file. We just weren't able to reconstitute it from the warehouse file.
Oh, okay.
So that might be an aha for me. I had the suspicion that it would be nice, even if we don't need the storage to be human readable, maybe while we're writing the application, we'll wish that it were human readable.
Totally.
And that turned out to be true, just to help us debug the serialization.
Totally.
How do you do with this anthropomorphic style design, Amitai, with historians and bakers and muffin tins and stuff?
I'm of two minds about it. One is that I always like my test cases to be a little bit funny and goofy, because that's part of what helps you feel like you can understand what's going on. But I think the flip side of it is that we may be imposing a second, slightly different object model by picking these real-world metaphors. That if they wind up not mapping exactly to what we're doing, then we have to juggle the dissonance in our head about, well, we said it was a historian, we said it was a baker, said it was a muffin, but it has these behaviors that suddenly don't fit that mold anymore, so to speak. And either we strain to make it keep the metaphor, or we have to keep fixing the metaphor. And so there's kind of a plus and a minus that goes with it, to me.
Got it. Cool. Thanks. That's it. And we're all done.
One more. Thank
One
you
more.
so much, Alistair. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
High fives. One more funny face for the camera for RubySteps World.